my name is Jacob, and I am a Norse Pagan. And today, I really don't know what to call this episode, but I think the best thing that's going to fit is 5 ways to connect with the gods. Originally, I was going to title this something along the lines of what it feels like to connect to the gods, what it feels like to connect to individual beings, how to tell the difference between individual beings, but the way it kind of turned out is just 5 different ways to connect with the gods, which is perfectly fine. Just know that those ideas are also wrapped into this episode. So what I'm doing with this episode, I actually reached out to the Patreon community, which I do from time to time, to ask for submissions to be in this video. So I actually had 5 submissions from people that wanted to share their experiences with connecting with the gods. Now, these come with 5 different deities and 5 different people. So their stories are going to be slightly different, but luckily all their stories actually coincided perfectly with my advice to people on how to connect with the gods. So without further ado, let's actually go ahead and show you the first clip, which also starts our first piece of advice, which is just speaking with the gods.
My experiences with Odin are actually pretty strong. Normally when I call to him, he usually answers with a raven or giving me a good feeling of where I need to go as far as guidance. Call out to him. Call out to the gods. It's interesting. They'll answer. Even when you don't think they will. They're always listening. Always keep that in mind. No matter which one you follow. You guys have a good one. And remember, go outside.
It sounds simple, I know, but truly the best thing you can do to start that connection with the deity is just to have a conversation with them. Now, you can have a conversation just like in your car on the way to work. I've had those things before, but I think it really means something when you go outside or when you sit in front of an altar or a sacred space and you actually give that god time. Because I think that's the biggest thing, is actually setting aside time for these deities. Because really, time in itself can be a sacrifice. We live busy lives, and a lot of times we don't even give time to ourselves. So we actually set aside 5-10 minutes just to speak to a deity. It goes a long way. So let's actually go ahead and roll into the second clip and the second piece of advice I have for people to connect with the gods.
So Loki likes to screw with people. A while back, I actually asked him for a sign. A day or two later, I found a spider crawling next to me in my basement. I was just going through some stuff in storage. I wondered if it was a sign from Loki, but I got some mixed advice. Some people said, yeah, that could be a Loki sign. Some people are like, don't take everyday things as a sign from the gods every time. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know. So I did nothing. The next day, I got a call from my manager at work saying that we had some trouble and we weren't going to be able to open for a while. In that moment, I instantly realized Loki was screwing with me because he didn't like that I missed his first sign. I've asked a lot of people about signs from Loki, and that's pretty much the number one thing I've heard. Don't miss his signs because he doesn't like it, and he'll pull these kind of pranks on you. After that, I left an offering, a very delicious offering in my own opinion, and I got a call from my manager the very next day saying it looks like we're good, we're going to be able to open back up in the next couple days. So that was that.
So this one's a little bit different. So the gods will also sometimes reach out to us. It's not everyone, and don't be afraid. I know I've had so many people message me and they're like, I feel so sad because the gods aren't contacting me, and that's okay. Sometimes we have to be the ones to reach out. But in cases that the gods are beginning to send you a sign, the gods can be a little bit fickle in their signs. Sometimes they're very small. You can't really expect a storm to appear out of nowhere and thunder to strike and ravens to be flying all about. It doesn't usually happen like that. It can, but usually the signs we get are small. And a lot of times I find in life that there's signs all around us. It's just us that chooses to ignore them. As, just like in this video, I don't typically see spiders. And when I do, it usually leads to some mysterious and nefarious things. A lot of people probably look at these small events and be like, oh, I'm just crazy. You get stuck in your head. But then you come to figure out that, no, that was actually a sign. Sometimes a bird is just a bird, a spider is just a spider. But if you see something like that, it feels different, it could be a sign from the gods, which I do plan on exploring in a future video. But it's one of those things where you just have to be honest with yourself in the sense that, like, when you see something that's out of the ordinary or something that really draws your attention, it might be time to think about who's trying to reach out to me. So with that, let's move into the third piece of advice I have and the community has for connecting with the gods.
Jacob, it's me. Amy, and I'm a Norse Pagan. The god that I wanted to talk about in terms of how did I know that he was speaking to me or trying to get my attention is Frey. I associate him a lot with sunshine. I know he's like a god of sun and rain and crops and fertility. Even in the depths of winter, I am still really feeling Freyr's energy and his strength and support anytime the sun is out. Anytime I was feeling stressed out, angry, frustrated, needed to vent, I would go outside. I think it was the day when it was super cold and I was turning away to walk back to my car from the pond, and I just felt that warm sunlight on my back as I left, and it was so energizing and so reassuring and supportive. It just felt like Frey placing that warm, reassuring hand on my shoulder and saying, like, it's gonna be okay, I'm here for you.
So as we see in this video, going outside is a big aspect of it. Obviously, I'm very big on pushing people to go outside to connect with the old gods, especially when you feel disconnected or you want to feel connected. Especially gods like the Vanir, in the sense of like Freyr, Freya, Njord. It's going to be a lot easier to connect with them out in nature. The Vanir are nature deities. And so connecting to someone like Freyr is going to be so much easier if you're actually out feeling the sun on the back of your neck. Even walking, the times I felt connected to Freyr has been in fields, like fields of grass and flowers, wild growth and things like that have been the times I feel connected with him. I don't have many connections with him, but it seems like a lot of people I talk to had this connection with him in the sun, the warmth, and fields, and being around agriculture. That's kind of what his domain is. And so going outside and just feeling the world, and then seeing what pops into your head as well. So you can talk to them, you can look for their signs, but also just being outside and seeing what connects with you. So moving to the fourth piece of advice, this is where we actually get more into the research aspect of the faith.
For me, the one that stands out the most is with Ardeo. I felt her breath on me. I saw her form in a way. I didn't know her name at the time. I had no idea who she was. And so I researched different pantheons until I came across her name, and it was immediately clear to me that it clicked. It was right. And so far that's happened with other deities that I've contacted and worked with, is that when either the name presents itself right away and it clicks into place, sometimes I have to kind of mull it over, but generally speaking, the more exposure to that same energy, eventually I stumble across a name that just clicks into place and it feels like that is right. And that's how it works for me anyway. Hope that was some help.
So again, very simple thing. Just start your research process. And this is really where, your own personal experiences mix with the experiences of others and the history that we have. So looking into a god, like when I actually first watched this video, I had no idea who Ardeo was. And I'm like, who? And so I looked up Ardeo, and it's the Celtic bear deity. And so I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And it seems like we have not a lot of information on Ardeo, but again, this actually prompted me to do more research into this deity. And so this is kind of the other aspect of this faith, that once you start connecting with deities, you want to find out more about them, just going through and seeing who's out there, seeing what the Norse deities are, and even the Celtic deities, and maybe the Slavic deities, and seeing what names really call out to you. And so it's one of those things where it's like you really have to be honest with yourself and trust yourself when looking into the different deities of these pantheons. You really need to let yourself feel things. And like when you look at a name and you're like, I feel kind of connected to that, maybe that's something you start diving deeper into and you start looking up the experiences of others and see if that connects with you. So here's the fifth video and the fifth piece of advice I have for people trying to connect with the old gods.
Had an experience with Freya. My sister had been trying to get pregnant for 5 or 7 years with no good results. Very sad results. So I made an offering to Freya, and I prayed to her, because this was beyond human capabilities. And soon found out that my sister had gotten pregnant. And when she was out of the woods, she told me what she was going to name them, and if it was a boy, his name was going to be Noah, and if it was a girl, her name was going to be Freya. Now, my sister knows nothing about Norse paganism. She probably thought the name sounded nice. But to me, that was a huge sign that Freya had something to do with my sister's success.
So this is when our research and our experiences become one. So you need to research the gods, you need to research their aspects and who they are and what they're connected to, at least what we know, and even the experiences of others to influence your personal practice and the experiences you have. So with a goddess like Freya, it's a little bit easier because when you look her up, you can find that she's connected to fertility and childbirth. And so doing a ritual around fertility, it is natural to call to a goddess like Freya. Now, she has many other aspects, but this is definitely one of the ones that she would have been most called to, even in the pre-Christian Scandinavian societies. So looking into the research and seeing what aspects we can pull out of the gods from what we do know from the past allows us to have more informed ritual practice now. And so in this case, giving to Freya about a childbirth is a great way to, one, connect to that god or goddess because you're showing that you know something about them, you're connecting to something that's older than us, and you're actually getting results, which is ultimately the reason we follow this faith. Is we don't do it just because it makes us feel good. I mean, it does at times, but this faith actually delivers results. And, in the case of childbirth and things like that, we can actually see those things and, experience those things on a deeper level because of our connections with the gods and goddesses. Very lastly, I would like to talk about my experiences a little bit, especially with this research part of it. So obviously, Wisdom of Odin. I'm a primary Odin follower. I have trouble connecting to other deities because I'm so focused on wisdom and wandering and researching more about Odin, finding everything I can about Odin. It has been really hard for me to actually connect to other gods and goddesses. Most recently, I've connected more with Freya and Thor. But interestingly enough, I want to talk about Skadi, who is a goddess who I didn't start giving to until December of last year at the start of winter. And all this winter long, I've been going outside more to try to connect with her more. And it's been, I've seen every aspect of this research cycle in learning more about Skadi. When doing research, you find that she's connected to mountains. So I climbed a mountain this winter and definitely felt the wild energy of Skadi there. And we even saw a woman, like I was with a group and there was a woman on the mountain hiking alone, and we kind of talked to her for a bit, and she was like 40 minutes from the summit, and we were on our way back down. And, we kind of said like, oh, it's a little bit further up, it's getting kind of late, might take you some time. She's like, you don't have to worry about me. And then she went off on her own, and then she ended up looping around and passing us on the way back down. So this woman was probably like an hour away from us, and then, she passes by and she's like, you guys have a good night, and goes by. Most likely, this is just a strong, independent woman that climbs mountains all the time, but it's oddly particular that I was having Skadi moments and feelings and sensations when we find the strong, independent mountain hiker woman that completely blows us away as far as like getting past us on this mountain. Sure, she's probably out there living her life still, but to me, I took that as a sign from Skadi of her being on that mountain. Again, this is just what I felt and being honest with myself, And that's, again, one of the biggest aspects of connecting with the gods is being honest with your experiences. Not every bird you see is a sign from Odin. Not every time a spider lands on your hand is Loki trying out to get you. It's just one of those things where you have to be honest with the experiences and what you feel from what is happening. Having these experiences, I know this is something that is so hard to talk about. It's even hard for me to talk about in this video, is because they're personal. And it's something I don't see a lot of people talking about. But obviously, when we connect to these gods, we feel something. And that's something that's not easily quantified. It's not something that's easily described. But when we connect to a god or goddess, it gives us an experience that we recognize as good, as informative, as, sometimes bad. It gives us, that is outside of the normal experiences of being us. For me with Odin, I usually feel my heart race. I usually feel my chest tighten a little bit. I feel, the air in my lungs fuller. And it's one of those things where it's like, either I'm having like a cardiac event, or I'm just sitting here around a fire, and then all of a sudden my heart starts racing and I start feeling the air in my lungs. So yeah, either I'm unhealthy, which is a possibility, or I'm having, that's what I equate to an Odin experience, because anytime I truly feel connected to him, I feel that heart sensation. Again, personal experience with myself. I'm not saying you're going to experience Odin the same way, but again, I really wanted to make this video to show that we're all not crazy. We're all having these unified experiences because we have the poetic Edda, we have history, but these books and these sources don't really give us what it feels like to connect to these gods. All we know is that we're reading these names, we're reading these stories, and we're having sensations, and we're connecting it to those old gods. And so I believe that truly, as practitioners of the old ways, we need to be more honest about the experiences that we have in ourselves, but also the ones that we tell others. I think we're all going to feel a lot less crazy, and we're going to feel a lot less alone when we actually get on our social medias, on our YouTubes, on our Instagrams, and actually talk about the experiences we have with God and sharing the sensations and the feelings and what they've taught us and what we've learned from them. I hope the 5 stories that I shared for my Patreon supporters, as well as my own personal experiences, has helped you, if you're a new practitioner, realize that there are multiple ways to connect to these gods and give you a place to start. But also, if you're a seasoned practitioner of this faith, I really want to inspire you, like I have here, to share our experiences. I know we follow this faith because we have experiences, and I think we're going to make a lot of people feel better, and we're going to feel better about our own experiences if we share them and help others know that they are not alone when they have these sensations and when they have these experiences with the old gods. But folk, until next time, go outside, connect with the old gods, and until the hall, it's gone.